It has been the most interesting and trialsome time so far. 2020 has changed the world. It has ripped the veneer off what we thought was a unified society. Many people say, well, we're not as divided as we think, or people are trying to make us divided. But that's not what history or what our daily lives say. For example, I'm going to give you several things that are in our daily lives that keeps us apart, that we may ignore, other than the massive things that keep us separate. Here is number one, red hair. For a long time in our history, red hair was looked at as something of a pariah. If you had red hair, you were considered connected to witchcraft, evil, or trouble. This divided people by their hair. If you had red hair, you were put into a category. The same thing with blonde hair. Blonde hair, you were considered a lot of times in the later years, in the 20th century, as being ditzy, empty-headed, unintelligent, airhead, and the list goes on. So we categorized ourselves and divided ourselves by our hair color. And we still do, because a lot of times we say underhanded comments about our hair and how we act is in connection to it. Another one is schools, colleges. We have division, deep division, one college against another one. Our education is combative. Another one is sports. Sports have always divided us. It may seem like it's a playtime thing, but don't forget, in England, there is something called the hooligan, where the combative force and fighting was so bad that they had to literally have police officers guard the stadium because of the amount of division between teams. How about age? Age is another thing, where we treat our old elderly like second-class citizens, and that if you're old, you should stop doing things because you're old, or you should move out of the way because you're old, or we should treat them like kids. This is ageism, and this still is prevalent in our society. We have our politics, of course. Our politics are a master of dividing. So far, it has reached record levels where people have drawn a line in the sand and they're not moving one bit. Don't forget about religion. Religion has caused wars and untold pain across the globe for centuries. Even now today, religion, rather than unites people, divides people. How about looks? If you are attractive, even today, this is considered acceptable in some categories. You are successful. And even though you are unattractive, you may not get the positions because you don't fit the level or the attractiveness of what people think is beautiful. How about weight? We're divided ourselves about weight. Those who are overweight, who are considered obese, are treated a certain way than those who are considered acceptable weight. We divide ourselves about weight. Language. We know this all too well. Language. If you don't speak a certain language, you could divide somebody about their language. How about geography? In this country, there's one called if you live in the South or you live in the North. It has caused civil wars, and its power of division is irrefutable in fact. If you live in the coast, East Coast, or West Coast, these are all things for dividing. For those who say we're not divided as we think, or it's not as bad as we think, has to look at the fact, the ones about gender and the one about race. These issues are deeply entrenched in history. Just because we don't like to hear something, or we think it may be overblown, or that it's not as bad as people say, and we don't want to see it, doesn't mean the problem goes away. That's not what the facts say. So maybe if we admit it, we could start the 12-step program to healing and look for hope in ways that might really help rather than hurt.